Hello and welcome to a new video. Today we're gonna take a look at most likely the best team for the single type cover right now. This team was insane for me. I climbed yesterday, I got an 18 game win streak, not only with this team but also with another team that I'm most likely going to showcase tomorrow because there's going to be a different video later on. But this team was insanely easy to play and it was just so strong. We're going to have a team here with Double in the lead. Sadly, Double is kinda needed. You need something that can beat both steel types, which Double can do thanks to the fast move, but also something like a Kaiwei, which can do it thanks to payback. If there's any other Pokemon that can do that, let me know in the comment section. I don't know any really, but that's basically the main goal of this Pokemon here. For example, Kaiwei against us in lead, perfect for us, so you can swap out into our Grimer. And yes, we're running here the XL Grimer. Pretty expensive to be fair. You can only really use the Wiper otherwise as a no XL variant. You can also use something like Nidorina or Nidorino, which are both XL, but Grimer, honestly, it is worth it to get this Pokemon, especially for the Open Great League. Right now, I'm going to make another showcase for this Pokemon for the Open Great League, but especially after the Mud Bump buff, this Pokemon is insanely good as a core breaker, for example, for the Alone Ninetales plus Lantern Core, which is kind of funny because, like, nobody really expected that, but this Pokemon is insanely strong in terms of that one. But here, for example, we're going to encounter now a Pokemon that I don't really want to face, which is going to be the Registeel. I can go for the bait here. Do we get the shield? We do get the shield, and we're going to swap out here to catch a move onto our Shadow MUK. You see already, our CP of the Shadow MUK is not really ideal. This is kind of one that I want to use for Ultra League eventually as well, so I can use it for two purposes. But this is totally fine. The CP don't always matter too much. This Pokemon, you're going to see it in later games as well, was insane. Like, this honestly was most like the favorite Pokemon of this team for me. The normal MUK here is such a strong save swap in this current meta, because usually if you have something like a normal type in the lead, what we're going to have here, you're going to get out the Kaiwei. It turns out you win CMP against Kaiwei, you have Dark Pulse against Kaiwei, and with the Shadow bonus you're going to be able to win a lot of times against that one, or at least gets a shield advantage, which is amazing for me. And you're going to see that matchup quite often in this video as well. Every battle that I did with this team here is in this video. There's literally no game cut out. So enjoy this one. There is literally nothing else that I really have to say about this. We're going to get the a Wobbuffet against us here right now. Oh wow, a Psychic type against our Poison type. I'm so scared. No, I'm not, because Dark Pulse is going to two-shot them. And also their Mirror Coat is not going to do too much damage because A, the opponent doesn't really do too much damage in general, but also Mirror Coat is a pretty bad move, and while it is stab and super effective, we are easily able to knock out the Wobbuffet here, and we will be able to realign, which is a cool thing about the MUK. MUK is just super strong in that regard. In comes the Vigoroth. We can just go up to one big Dark Pulse here, which is the only move that we would have got to. Like, we would have got, of course, to the Thunder Punch, which would do a little bit less damage, but we wouldn't have got to two of them. So here we're going to be able to now go ahead and go into our Double. I'm just going to use this to soak some energy here as well as going to try to do some damage against the opponent. And as we're going to see here right now, we're going to get them super low. They're going to go back into the Lurantis and I can go into my Grimer. I still have two shields left. And I resist everything from a Lurantis, which is just so amazing. And you see already, a Leaf Blade, like Lurantis is a very attack-weighted Pokemon, still doesn't two-shot us. His superpower is even going to be worse against us. And we can just farm them all the way down, forcing them to a forfeit here, which is just so much fun. Let's take a look at the next opponent. We're going to have a Dragonair in the lead. What do you do against this Pokemon? You try to go for one Body Slam and then swap out. Because your MUK has to go for a Dark Pulse basically to do damage against them. It is kind of not really ideal to go in here without any kind of advantage in terms of either energy or health, but here like this, the opponent going to swap out into their Kaiwei anyway. I can go for the Dark Pulse, and we will see here that the opponent going to go ahead and not shield this move up. Turns out we can even go for another Thunder Punch here in time to force either the shield or the knockout against the opponent, and we're gonna be able to realign. In comes a Registeel. And you see already, the Shadow MUK is just literally destroying the opponent here right now. We can go for one Dark Pulse and do a ton of damage against the Registeel. They cannot farm us down like that. Like, they can just go ahead and still have to take another charge move here from me, which is going to be super nice for me. I can still try to go for one Thunder Punch. Sadly, I can't get there in time, but I can swap into my good friend the Grimer, can take a charge move pretty easily here, and go back into my Double, which will be able to go for the shield against the opponent. You just have to try to get them low, because you can go for one Mud Bomb with our Grimer against the opponent's Registeel if it comes down to that one. But we're going to see here, yeah, the final shield from the opponent coming through. They're going to go for the charge move, but I'm not scared at all. I can just farm them down here, and I have Mud Bomb, and Mud Bomb going to easily do enough damage here to knock out the opponent. At this point of time, I thought of going for the Sludge Bomb just for the BM, But we don't do this here, we're going to go for the safe victory here with our Grimer and win this game. Next opponent, we're going to have the double against a Hypno. That's kinda decent for us, as you're going to see the opponent swapping out immediately into a Grand Bull. Grand Bull is totally okay for us. Say hi to our Grimer. We can take one move from the opponent here as well. Crunch going to do actually a lot of damage, but we can farm them all the way down, and now we have a ton of energy. In comes most likely the Hypno again. And we're going to be able to go for one Sludge Bomb here. This is going to do a pretty decent amount of damage and put them into nearly the range for one Body Slam, which is going to be fairly decent as well. As I'm going to go straight for the Body Slam here as well, and this is going to put them pretty low. It doesn't knock them out here, but going to put them into a range where I can even farm them down with a MUK later on. But I'm going to shield this move up just in case they're running Focus Blast, which I've seen a lot of people run Focus Blast recently, but not in this Pokemon here. We're going to have a Clefable in the back, and of course, this game is over at this point of time. Double Fairy in the back, we're going to be able to completely hardwall all those Charm users, which is just amazing. And we will be able to go for a Thunder Punch against the opponent here as well, which will get shielded, but unless they have Psychic here, which is pretty rare to be seen, we will be able to just farm them all the way down here. We have a move stored, we can just farm them all the way down again here, and MUK is just sweeping again, as they're going to be able to go into the next game. Those games are super fast as well, which is kind of fun to see. A pretty awkward lead here against us is going to be another MUK. But what we can do here is we can do two things. Either we stay in here for a little bit longer and try to take a move onto our dub wall, which is exactly what I'm going to do here, and try to get them low, or you swap out after one charge move into your own MUK. But you have to swap out eventually because you have to keep your dub wall alive, just in case they have something like a Kaiwei Chang in the back. You kind of want to have at least some kind of answer for that one, as you're going to be able to take a Dark Pulse here from the opponent, and in comes a Donphan. And this is the single-handedly worst Pokemon to face for this team. This is the only counter for this team, and this is the only Pokemon that really makes me problems. But how often do you encounter a Donphan? This is the only one that I've seen so far in like a ton of games, to be fair. So I feel like this is not the biggest issue. Of course, it is an issue right now. There is not really a chance for me winning this game here unless I can somehow get to still a move here. I tried to catch the Earthquake onto my dub wall. Didn't work out, and now they go for the Body Slam. They're going to swap out now. They're going to swap out into their MUK. I have to try to farm them all the way down. I have to try to go for a charge move here real quick. It's going to be the opponent's, let's see, the opponent's Meganium. I will be able to most likely knock them out with my Grimer still because I have a ton of energy there. Of course, I have to be careful about the Earthquake, but honestly, it just doesn't really help us here right now. The opponent going to definitely have the Earthquake, and sadly, the Donphan is actually the hardest answer for this team, and you barely face this Pokemon. So I feel like this team is insanely safe to play right now. It's literally one of the safest teams that you can run. As you're going to encounter maybe a mirror here, we're going to have a Dubwool in the lead against us. Again, we kind of have to keep our Dubwool alive for potential Kaiwei Chang in the back. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go for one Body Slam, we're going to take one Body Slam, then we're going to swap out into our MUK here, as we're going to be able to go ahead and now farm them all the way down. They're going to go for their own Body Slam immediately here. We can take one. MUK is still pretty bulky, as you can see here as well. In comes a Mew. This is totally okay for me, as I can go ahead and go for a shield. This is going to be the serve as well from the opponent, but I can go ahead and go for some charge moves. And you see already the health of Mew declining pretty fast with the stab poison jab there. Shadow boosted, it just does a ton of damage. As the Thunder Punch is coming through, gonna put them into a range where I would be able to farm them down, but of course, we are not really forced to go ahead and go for the farm down here. I can still go ahead, get some extra energy with my Dubwool, then swap out into my Grimer, have the Dubwool against me again, which means that they're most likely going to be pretty weak against Grimer in the back, and I have a ton of energy still on both of my Pokemon. I'm going to be able to go for the Mud Bomb here right now, which will do a ton of damage, knock them out, and we face the Clefable in the back, which is going to be a good game. Next opponent, Pinsir in the lead. This looks kinda like the teammate that I showcased earlier already, and it has the Kaiwei Chang in the back. But we can play around this here. We can go for the incoming Dark Pulse, gonna get the shield here. And if they have something like their own Dubwool in the back here, I might be able to just play around a little bit. I'm going to go for the shield first and go for the Dark Pulse and afterwards, so I can at least get shields down, which will be very important for me later on because Pinsir cannot take a charge move. And this is basically what I'm going to try to do here. Try to get as much energy now with my own Dubwool here to try to put them, like to try to have a Body Slam still stored after the payback, which will allow me to hit the Pinsir for a ton of damage and put them basically into farm down range, which would be really ideal. But of course, they can still go into their normal type in the back here, which is going to be, we will find out as well if it's going to be the Dubwool like in my team. Payback coming through, going to knock out the opponent. We go blind for the Body Slam here right now, and it's going to be the Vigoroth. which is basically how my team worked as well, but Double is way better than Vigoroth. Like, if you play the team from the opponent, which is definitely a team that can work out, you kind of need Double, because Double going to give you coverage against Kofagrigus, which you see quite often in the lead, and while the Vigoroth doesn't really do as well against Kofagrigus, it still can play pretty okay against Kofagrigus because of at least Boldo's going to do some pretty neutral damage, but it's not really the ideal matchup, so yeah. Keep that in mind. Definitely for that team from the opponent, Double is better than the Vigoroth. We're going to have, the Vigoroth against us. I'm going to use a I'm actually going to not use a shield. And we're going to get Bulldoze here right away as the Kofagrigus comes in, which is actually okay for me. I can go ahead and go for the Dark Pulse here right now, which will be fairly decent as we're going to get them super low. And at this point of time, I'm not really scared about this Kofagrigus anymore, because they're even in range for the Poison Jab down. But in comes now a Machamp, which has to take one charge move here right now. Going to be the body slam, they can knock me out here, but they let the move go through, which is amazing for me. As you can see here right now, Poison Jab is just chunking away. We're going to shield up the potential Rock Slide here, as we will be able to farm them all the way down. And in comes the Kofagrigus, where we can just go for the full farm down with our fast move Poison Jab. There's nothing they can do about this. As they go for the Shadow Ball now, we'll be able to win this game there. Let's take a look at the next game coming up. We're going to have Aragon is my king with the Machamp in the lead. Horrific one for us. We can swap out into the MUK. But this time around, because we have quite a lot of energy advantage and they go into the Kofagrigus and they definitely want to realign, I'm going to go for the bait first, and they're going to shield this move up, which is amazing for me, because now I don't have to go for any baits. I can just go straight Dark Pulse and I should be able to just outspeed the opponent the entire time and just knock out the opponent's Kofagrigus. I go for the CMP tie here right now, and this Dark Pulse is going to knock out the Kofagrigus, putting them into the Machamp again. I can go for a Thunder Punch, and you see already how strong the Shadow MUK is. It is wild. We're gonna get the final shield of the opponent as well, by getting them also close to the red health, as we can go into our own Grimer. Still gonna shield it just in case it's the Rock Slide. They can't go for a Cross Chop and a Rock Slide, but they can go for 2 Cross Chops, so that's a great play by the opponent here. Oh, never mind, they actually get to the Rock Slide. I thought they wouldn't get there. Doesn't matter anyway, because they have a Meganium in the bag, and one Sludge Bomb would have sealed the deal there. So let's take a look at the next game. Dragonair in the lead, going to be again same play as before. We're just gonna go straight for the body slam and then swap out, because our MUK doesn't really want to go straight for Thunder Punch against the opponent, as it would be resisted. But of course, the fast move itself is going to do a ton of damage here. I'm going to use a shield here just in case, as I should be able to farm down in time and they don't get to another move, as we're going to get in another Kofagrigus, and that's why you use the MUK as a safe swap. It's just the coverage. That's why this MUK is just the best safe swap right now. It is just the yeah, honestly, it's just so strong. We're going to be able to get a shield here right now. I'm going to let this move go through, because I still have a ton of health left on my double there, which is going to be beneficial for me, as I can go for payback later on. But in comes now the Clefable, where we can go ahead and go into our own Grimer. Grimer will be able to do a ton of damage against them, and we should most likely get to Mud Bomb. I'm actually going to go for the Sludge Bomb here to knock them out, as they're going to let this move go through. Their only play of the opponent would be to now farm you all the way down, which they might try to do here right now. This is still going to be a scary game now. That's going to be a very, very difficult one to still win here, as you're going to still see the shield from the opponent. We don't get to the Mud Bomb. That's super sad. I will get the extra fast move through. I'm going to let the first move go through, because it doesn't matter. I have to take one anyway. And I'm now going to see the next one from the opponent. At this point of time, I just have to bait them. I just have to hope that this body slam bait going to work out well for me. But let's take a look at this. It's going to get shielded, which will allow us to go for a payback after 2 more double kicks. And that's going to be it. This is going to be a good game here, as we're going to go up into the next game as we find the next opponent. Might be the last one, but maybe not, because those battles are fairly quick right now. We're going to have a Shadow MUK against us again, which is going to be a little bit tricky, but we can go ahead and go for a body slam here. We might want to take a charge move from the MUK onto our double, but now we're going to swap out into our own MUK, which will be able to take a charge move from the opponent here. But I might actually shield this move up. It's going to be the Thunder Punch, great bait by the opponent, but they can only go for another Thunder Punch here, while I can go for the full farm down. And MUK with energy is insanely strong here, as you're going to see the Kofagrigus coming in, and of course they have to take some Dark Pulses here. First one gonna get shielded. Can I get to the next one as well? I can, and this will most likely also get shielded by the opponent here. And now they're in range for 1 payback, which is going to be amazing for us, as you're going to be able to take this charge move from the opponent. But we're going to play it a little bit risky here, and we're not going to shield the next one up here. I feel like I can still survive it. It's going to be a close call, and it was a close call, but it was the right call. So we're going to be able to now knock them out with the payback. Now it's all down to my Grimer. Can we still win this game? They're going to have their MUK here. I'm going to let this move go through, and I just have to hope that there's something in the back that I'm going to be able to beat with a ton of energy and a shield. and it's Wobbuffet. A Pokemon that literally doesn't care about my energy. And this is basically a game. At this point of time, I know already there's most likely going to be a loss for me because, of course, they can get pretty fast to the mirror code because they have counters a fast move generates as much energy as I do, and they take those moves for days. So my only play here really is to have a feeling when they throw and catch a move. And this worked out super well, as you can see here, and my opponent decides to do exactly the same on their MUK. And it's getting even closer and closer. What an endgame. We're both at basically next to no health, but a one more mud bomb will seal the deal and we will be able to win this game. And I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like on the video, subscribe if you haven't already. There are 2 videos on the screen right now, the top teams on the right side and my last video on the left side about Shadow Hitmontop. So check them out if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.